we're going to get into our first story here, and this shouldn't be any shocker, but of course, we're starting to see the tides turn a little bit in Hollywood. Not only in Hollywood, but elsewhere as well. But Hollywood is one that we've been talking about for a while that that has really struggled to catch up. And of course, I was on Third Rail of Eyes Off the Rails this past Saturday night, as I usually am. And we had a good friend of the show, Mike G, was on. And speaking of which, Saturday night off the rails, there we go. Oh, new look, by the way. I'm sure you guys have already noticed that. So trying some new things out, trying to promote a little bit more of the folks I affiliate with, more of our shows, stuff like that. But yeah, so we were on there and we were talking about how Hollywood, when they make their films, they're usually about 2-ish years behind, meaning that they have to go into pre-production, production, and post-production prior to the film coming out, which when you bump that clock back, that puts them about 2 years behind, especially on large-scale projects, two or more years, really. And so they're going to be covering things that were popular then if they're trying to keep with the messaging or whatever was, going on in the world. And things have moved so quickly that it's hard to keep up with it. So we are constantly hearing about reshoots and re-edits and adjustments and deleted scenes coming out because it no longer does them any good to have it in. And hey, you know what? Some will say too little too late. I say at least we're moving in the right direction. Again, I'm a filmmaker myself, so I love to see that they're coming back around, hopefully. Like I said, that's yet to be determined. But this caught my attention. Again, nothing groundbreaking here, but did want to share this. This comes from Variety. It says Disney Plus to change content warnings ahead of Dumbo, Peter Pan, and more old movies amid DEI strategy shift. Again, we're going to talk about shifts that are happening right now that we are seeing. And of course, this is a big one. This was a DEI thing that Trump fought against. Classic films, which, by the way, do not need to be remade. They don't need to be rebooted. We don't need live action that 70 to 90% of it is still animated. Be it computer animation, it's still animation. We don't need it. Nobody's asking for it. Leave them be. These things are classics. All right. Back to it. I just felt like that needed to be said. Okay. So it says Disney is adjusting the content warnings ahead of some of its old movies, including Peter Pan and Dumbo, amid an overall shift in DEI strategy at the company following President Donald Trump taking office again. That just sounds awesome. As first reported by Axios and confirmed by Variety, Disney is changing the disclaimer that auto plays before these titles. The previous version noted that the film, quote, includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of peoples or cultures. While the new version reads, this program is presented as originally created and may contain stereotypes or negative depictions. Now, it's not a huge shift. Not a huge shift. Number one. Number two, it's also not necessary, is it? Like, do we think that this is something that people have to see before they see a film? Like, can't we just watch the movie? Have we gotten so soft we have to have trigger warnings for everything? Now, the only trigger warnings that I really feel like should be out there are pretty much for like epileptic people. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're epileptic, you may not want to watch this film. I think that's fair. That's fair. We don't need even this new one, but I will point out, if you look in here, it says, let's see, it includes negative depictions. So it's saying it does include it. It's part of it. Whereas the new one says, may contain stereotypes or negative depictions. So it is not definitively saying. That's really the biggest change that I see, is one saying this is negative. This talks about people of, cultures and different types of blah, 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 blah. Whereas the new one saying, you might get a little offended by this one, just FYI. The other one saying you are going to be offended by this. This is the difference between this and, oh man, I just went completely blank. Taught in schools, colors, something. I can't think about it. I can't think of what it is. Sorry, guys. But it's the where like black kids or kids of, I mean, they say kids of color, but specifically it's usually black kids, are told you are a victim. You cannot overcome in the normal system. You will have to work harder. And it's telling them all these things definitively, right? Versus saying, hey, there's obstacles that existed before that you may still have to deal with a little bit. There's a difference there. It is saying definitively, like, look, you're not starting out from the same point. You're not going to be as successful. You are going to be set up for failure. And that's why critical race theory, boom, there it is. I knew it would come to me. That's why you see conservatives fighting against it, not because it teaches about race, but because it creates this definitive negative depiction of race and says, because of your race, you are a victim and you will always have to overcome, and you are always starting from a lower level and have to work harder. You are a victim, and you are an oppressor. You are a colonizer. You are evil. And that's why it was fought against. I want all the stories told, Harriet Tubman. I'm from Macon, Georgia. We have the Harriet Tubman Museum. It's awesome. I've been there multiple times. Beautiful mural in there and everything. Yeah, we don't care if those stories are told. We want those stories told, but we don't want children to be made to feel lesser in any way. Yes, tell them, hey, look, there's going to be things you have to overcome in life. And this is true for all races. Some more than others at different points in time, but I think we live at a time now where it's pretty even keel on that one, right? But that's what this is saying right here. To me, this is what I'm getting out of this. This is saying this is definitely showing you something negative versus you might see something negative or something you deem to be negative. It's allowing the viewer to have some input in their own thought process. Imagine that. We'll read a little bit more and move on. I don't know if there's a whole lot more to go over on this one. It says in November 2019, Disney first added content warnings to movies such as Dumbo due to racist depictions found in the films created by Disney in the 1940s and 50s. This program is presented as originally created. The warning previously said it may contain outdated cultural depictions. Again, didn't need it. Disney changed the wording in October 2020 to the longer content warning that I'm not going to read. Good Lord. Now it is reverted to the content warning back to a version of the one inserted in 2019. Disney's Chief Human Resources Officer, Sonia Coleman, outlined changes to the company's DEI efforts in a memo to leadership Tuesday. Creating a welcoming and respectful environment for our employees and guests is core to our company culture and our business, Coleman wrote. Our values, integrity, creativity, collaboration, community, inclusion guide our actions and how we treat each other. Today, I want to provide an update on how our values are embedded in our leader compensation program, specifically our other performance factors, as well as share some of the work that has been underway to evolve our talent strategy consistent with these values. We're not going to read the full note, so we don't have to worry about all that. But again, not a huge change, but it's definitely a change, and it's definitely been impacted because of Donald Trump. Hopefully this is a net positive, and hopefully we see more of this happening. I would love for films to get back to telling good stories, being artistic, taking risks and chances, which we're going to talk about taking risks in a little bit. Spoiler, foreshadowing. But yeah, Hollywood hadn't done that in forever. It's safety. Reboots, sequels, prequels, whatever. And then insert Agenda A here. We're tired of that. So hopefully this is a move in the right direction. We're going to talk a little bit more about Hollywood in this next segment. So let's roll right on into that one.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip from the Morning Mayhem. Remember, this is just a portion of the full show that comes out every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you hadn't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the full shows or these tasty little nuggets.